everyone, and welcome to the Culture Cast. I'm Chris Stashew, and in the role of a lifetime, I'm joined by Mr. Eric Niss.
The role of a lifetime, ladies and gentlemen.
A man who has definitely never won an Oscar, who hasn't played Sid Vicious, and God, Gary Oldman has played so many people.
Everybody, he played fucking Churchill, for God's sakes.
Well, that was the one he won an Oscar for. He played Dracula. That was the role of a lifetime.
Fucking Commissioner Gordon.
I was trying to fight the mob. Oh, boy. So, God. So we're going to be talking about a movie that, thanks to our newest Patreon patron, John Thompson, we're going to be talking about a film that I can only quantify it as one of the strangest movies I have ever seen. It is called Tiptoes, or possibly Tiny Tiptoes.
Carol and Stephen's life together was perfect.
I've got to get going.
Right this second. Hey, baby.
Hey, sweetie. I love you.
There's one small problem.
Hi, I'm Ralph. I'm his brother. We're twins.
Are your parents,
Yeah.
It can tear them apart.
I think you're gonna let me know that everyone in your family's a midget.
They're not midgets, Carol. They're dwarfs.
Whatever.
Or bring them together.
Hey, welcome. I'm Steven.
Ah, there you are. This is Stephen's father, Bruno, and his mom, Kathleen. And over behind the bar is Stephen's brother, Rolf.
Hi.
You could have prepared us for this, don't you think?
If you embarrass me, I'll never speak to you again, so just get it together.
How's everybody's drink?
I think maybe I'm pregnant.
When the going gets rough, it's only the size of your heart that counts.
Would it really be that big of a deal if our kid was a dwarf?
You knocked up this great girl, and you didn't tell her that her baby's probably gonna be little.
I'm not like you.
We are so cute and cuddly. Don't discriminate against us.
He said these parties got a little wild. I never expected this. There's sure a lot of midgets around here.
You better back off, Goldie Hawn. My man can do what he wants to do.
I'm ready for an adult relationship.
What is this man doing in your bedroom?
A walk down the aisle.
Stephen's he's a very lucky guy. Just hope he's smart enough not to screw it up.
Is just a beginning.
There'll be rough patches, there's no doubt about it.
Canal Plus and Langley Productions proudly present command performances from Kate Beckinsale, Matthew McConaughey, Patricia Arquette, and in the role of a lifetime, Gary Oldman. Tiptoes.
Wow.
Yeah. So the film is directed by Matthew Bright, written by, and you're going to love this one, Eric, Bill Weiner.
Oh, God. 12-year-old Eric just died a little.
Right. Oh, God. Richard Weiner? Dick Weiner? No, William Weiner.
Yeah.
I knew
Willie
a guy.
Weiner?
I knew a guy in high school whose name was William Weiner.
God. I want to know, is Willie Weiner a dwarf, perhaps?
I think Bill Weiner is actually the pseudonym of Matthew Bright.
Is Matthew Bright a dwarf? Is he related to dwarfs? What is his dwarf connection? That's what I want to know. Because watching this movie, the only feasible explanation to exist...
Bill Weiner is the pseudonym, Matt Bright's pseudonym.
Is Matt Bright a dwarf?
No, Matt Bright is the guy who directed the movie.
That doesn't mean he can't be a dwarf.
He's not a dwarf. You know what else he directed? He's directed that Forbidden Zone movie, the movie that's directed by Richard Elfman, and it has like the Oingo Boingo dudes in it. It's a really weird movie.
No idea what you're talking about.
It's
I
pretty
guess
good.
They can't all be winners.
No, they can't, can they? So this movie, let's before we really talk about what this movie's about, let's talk about who's in this movie.
Because it's really baffling.
So let's take a couple steps back. So we are in 2019. We are post Matthew McConaughey being a serious actor.
Yeah, this is we are living in a post McConaughey renaissance.
We are living in a post True Detective season 1 universe here.
Yes. We are living post True Detective, post Dallas Buyers Club. God, he won a fucking Oscar. Remember that shit?
Sure did. I've seen that movie. It's okay. I mean,
the movie is okay, but god damn it, him and fucking the other guy, Jared Leto, both deserved Oscars.
Well, McConaughey absorbed all of the leftover talent that Leto had, and now he has none. So
yeah, I think there was a lot of
Jared Leto's not good as an actor.
I mean, he was in that movie.
Yeah, but not after Suicide Squad.
Well,
it all transferred to McConaughey, and then maybe McConaughey will transfer to someone else after that movie that came out earlier this year, Serenity.
God, I hope not. I can't think of anybody else in that movie I'd even want to have all the talent.
Yeah, fair enough. So in this movie, 2003, this film comes out. It doesn't get a release in theaters in the States. It premiered at Sundance, and then it was straight to DVD and VHS.
This movie premiered at Sundance?
Yes.
Oh, fuck.
So again, the crazy thing about this movie is it was essentially like, the way it got made is insane. So it has Matthew McConaughey, 2003. He would go on to be in How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days the same year. Kate Beckinsale of, I guess, Underworld fame. Van Helsing.
Was Underworld even a thing at that point?
Underworld,
I think, was after that.
Underworld was the same year.
Jesus Christ.
She had already been in Pearl Harbor too.
So like those two essentially were like right on the cusp of like being super famous.
Well, I mean, she was in Pearl Harbor.
Yeah, but Pearl Harbor sucked.
Yeah, but it was still a big like deal movie.
Yeah, but she wasn't like famous from Pearl Harbor.
No, but she's one of three faces on the goddamn cover of that movie. It's her, Affleck, and Hartnett. We see how the three of them fared. This movie also has Gary Oldman in it, and the thing about Gary Oldman in this movie is, as we know about Gary Oldman, he's very much like Johnny Depp, but like good. Talented. Johnny Depp seems to have completely like lost all sense of, I don't know, self-awareness when it comes to picking roles.
All you have to do is look no further than Guy Lapointe, and
all you have to do is look no further than that one movie he was in. Was I called like Muggo or Mortimer? Is that what that movie's called?
Oh yeah, Muggo. What the fuck is that? Weirdo.
I don't know, man. I didn't see it. Did you?
Weird slur that I'd never heard before. Mordecai, dude.
So like Johnny Depp has movies like Mordecai, and then he has movies like Black Mass, which Black Mass was okay.
Yeah, the movies like that, like where you can tell the performance is really good, but like the sheer amount of like makeup and stuff when you can still tell who it is underneath is like sometimes can be really distracting. And I think that's why that movie didn't quite work for me.
What, Black Mass?
Yeah.
Oh, I completely agree. So moving on from that, so Gary Oldman is pulling a Johnny Depp in this movie. Gary Oldman is playing Steven, who's played by McConaughey. He's playing his twin brother, who happens...
What's his name?
Rolf, like the dog from the Muppets.
Wow.
He happens to be playing a character whose name is Rolf. He's Matthew McConaughey's twin brother.
And he's a dwarf.
And he's a fucking dwarf.
So the whole thing is like Matthew McConaughey is the one like tall dude in just a family of dwarfs.
Yeah.
And so Kate Beckinsale is his girlfriend.
And he knocks her up.
They're about to get married, and she gets pregnant, and he hasn't told her anything about his family. And then she finds out by accident.
Her finding out happens due to Rolf, Gary Oldman showing up and being like, I just showed up to my on again girlfriend's place, and her like boyfriend beat the shit out of me, so I need somewhere to stay, and my brother, played by McConaughey, offered for me to stay here. But McConaughey had never told her that his family are dwarfs.
So yeah, this movie, like, they could have gone...
Can we talk about something here that Michael J. Anderson is supposed to be Matthew McConaughey's dad?
Yeah, that's pretty interesting.
Right? Like,
I mean, I don't know.
No, hold on. Like, if you don't know the name Michael J. Anderson, you'll know him as the man from Another Place in Twin Peaks. He's the guy he's the one who walks backward and talks and dances. Like, I don't for a second believe that he is Gary Oldman's dad, or even Matthew McConaughey's dad for that matter.
Yeah, he's in Carnival and shit. Like, he's a very famous
He's also
actor.
He's also a complete and utter nutcase. He's like a right winger, and there's a reason he wasn't part of the third season of Twin Peaks. No. Just look it up.
I didn't even know he was still alive.
Yeah, well, he's still alive. He's just not. He has taken gasoline and burned every bridge between him and anyone in the industry, is what it sounds like.
Yikes.
So that's like the whole thing. The whole kind of conflict in this movie is McConaughey knocked up Kate Beckinsale, and he is afraid that his son is going to be a dwarf.
It's a really weird premise. And
the trailer, which you heard at the beginning of this podcast, doesn't really give you any idea of how the last third of this movie is going to be, because the last third of this movie is shockingly upsetting.
Is it upsetting though?
It's upsetting in how like a left turn it takes, and it makes McConaughey's character almost turn into like a straight fucking sociopath. Like his character from Killer Joe would have been as believable as the character in this movie. Like it was just really weird because he's all of a sudden like a really bad guy, and I was like, wait, what?
Yeah, it's really interesting how the movie it's an interesting, I want to keep saying the word interesting premise, but I got to say it's a weird
nice way
premise.
Of saying bad.
It's weird, and I don't think it works as a premise for a fucking movie.
Well, here's the thing. It could have worked as a premise for a movie if it weren't so tonally insane. Like, there's parts that are supposed to be funny, as you can hear in the trailer. They've got this, like, fucking crazy, like, slapstick music, and then it transitions into what can only be described as a really poorly done Lifetime movie.
Yeah, and then you have Peter Dinklage in this movie, whose whole character is just comedic relief. He's just like kind of this like angry French communist dude who's just like constantly yelling about shit
and banging Patricia Arquette, who's in this movie for whatever reason.
Yeah, so I'm just like, okay, so they're kind of the comedic relief, all right, and then Gary Oldman is like, I don't know.
Gary Oldman in this movie is supposed to be the emotional center of the film. Problem with this movie is the focus of this film should have been Gary Oldman from the start.
But it's not. It's not. It's Kate Beckinsale.
Right,
like,
and like... That's the problem. That's the problem is the character, like the journey you go on with his character is the compelling journey in the film. And like, I'm going to tell you what, Gary Oldman's not bad in this movie. Actually,
I'll tell you what.
I say. Gary Oldman's actually not bad in this movie.
We're gonna give Gary Oldman the Foghorn Leghorn Award for this movie.
The Froghorn Leghorn Award. Froghorn Leg Ham Award. He's not bad in this movie, I don't think. I mean, the problem is
I don't know. I think it's ridiculous and stupid.
Every time you're watching a scene with him, you're like, how are they doing this? Like, where's like the prosthetic? Where's like the trickery here? Why he's walking on his fucking knees most of the movie.
Yeah, he's walking on his knees and they just don't show like, the bottom part of his legs or whatever. And he's got like some makeup going on and these glasses, and
forced perspective has never been a thing in Hollywood.
Well, I'm sure they used some forced perspective, but then
I don't think they did. I would actually.
I don't think they did either. Actually,
I would actually completely disagree with you because there's no.
And this movie came out after The Lord of the Rings, when forced perspective was like a huge deal, and
it also
like
came out after Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, which also forced perspective was a thing.
Yeah, lots of forced perspective. So you can tell this movie had like a very tiny budget, and so it seems to me like, how do you get all these like really famous actors? I mean, I guess they probably weren't super duper famous at the time.
Do you want to have your mind blown as to why Kate Beckinsale's in this movie?
She was dating one of the guys who made the movie or something?
No. Dude, you want to talk about having your mind blown. So Kate Beckinsale would say that she would be in the movie, and instead of charging millions of dollars at the time, she would work for SAG minimum. But the only thing that she requested that they had to do for her to be SAG minimum. Do you want to know what it is? Do you want to have your mind blown? She had to be allowed to wear her lucky hat in that one scene.
What?
The scene where she comes to talk with Matthew McConaughey at like his like firefighter thing. She's wearing this like really distracting like beanie hat.
Yeah. And she's like essentially just like wearing like sweatpants and like a tank top and this beanie hat.
Yeah, that is her lucky hat, and that's how she agreed to work for SAG minimum.
She must have been friends with somebody who was making this movie, because otherwise, like, why the fuck would she even be in it?
I don't know.
Or these people, they, like, maybe they read the script and they went like, oh, this is really compelling. Like, nobody ever sheds light on the plight of the little person. And I'm like, all right, I can see that. Like, this movie has a very overt, and I don't want to say this like it's a bad thing, because it's not, but it has like a very overt, like, agenda about, like, shedding light on, what it can be like, coming from a family of little people, and how that can affect, the people around them, and the people who come into their family, and, the problems that can bring, or things like that, which I'm like, okay, I guess that's a thing that happens, and, people want to know, and it could be compelling, but like...
Well, and the other thing, if you do a little bit of reading about this movie, is that, so Matthew Bright, the director and the writer, he came in, made the film. he was fighting with the producers during the entire length of the film. The producer's wife didn't want Kate Beckinsale to wear that hat in the scene that she wanted to wear the hat in, which obviously was like her like thing.
Producers' wives need to just shut the fuck up and just not be involved in things. Like, if your name isn't on the credits of the movie, then you don't get a say as to what happens.
So the guy who produced this movie was one of the guys who did the show Cops. He was like, me and my wife, we're multimillionaires, we'll do it, sure. So
that's why he was like, oh yeah, we did Cops.
Yeah, so she was like, you're not allowed to wear this hat. Huge hullabaloo about that. And in post-production, Matthew Bright edited the film the way he wanted it, okay? You know, the director's cut, right?
Sure.
And then these assholes came in and re-edited it into a rom-com.
Ooh.
And with the cheesy tagline, you know, it's the little things in life that matter, which, I mean... Boy.
God.
It's a tonal mess. Like, it's a tonal mess from top
scene
to
scene.
Yeah.
Like,
it's like it can't figure out if it wants to be a comedy or a serious film. I mean, you have Matthew McConaughey in like a comedic role for the first 20 minutes of the movie, and then at the end of the film, he's like completely insane.
Yeah, and it's weird. The shift between McConaughey's character and Kate Beckinsale's character, too, is like they really flip. So at the beginning of the movie, McConaughey's like totally cool, and he goes to this like, little person convention that's at the beginning of the movie where like, you know, he meets his family and, you know, we get to see him hanging out with all these people and he's dancing and he's having a good time. And he hasn't told his girlfriend about any of this yet or whatever. And then like as he tells her, or she finds out really, and then like they sort of deal with it, like it sort of flip-flops. And the second half of the movie, she's like now cool with all the, you know, dwarf and little person stuff. And she's like coming to grips with the fact that her baby that she's about to have might be a dwarf. And McConaughey's going like completely the other direction and off the deep end. And he's like, I don't want to fucking have a kid that's a dwarf and like all this shit. And I'm like, what the fuck? Like, you're the one tall dude in a family of dwarves. Like, what? Like, how are you flip-flopping so crazily? And I'm like, I don't know, man. It's weird. And then I don't know. Then Kate Beckinsale just has like a dwarf orgy at the end. Like, what the hell?
Right? Like, is that what happens?
No, she does not have a dwarf orgy, you idiot. She just hooks up with Gary Oldman.
I mean, there's a scene where Peter Dinklage and Gary Oldman are like looking at each other when she's talking, and
Dinklebot left.
I know, but I was kind of like, is this where this is going? Because if this is where this is going, I'm fucking out.
I kind of wish that it would have gone like full insane ending where it's just like she's like,
it already did go insane ending at the end of the
ending
movie.
Is just like really like stupid, sad Lifetime movie ending.
No, at the end of the movie, I couldn't comprehend how they were like, yeah, so she falls in love with Gary Oldman. Like, what journey did we take in this movie? They've had like 5 scenes together.
I mean, but every time you see them together, you know, they get a little closer and a little closer and a little closer. Like at the wedding, you know, after the wedding, she's like, I just thank you. I just want to thank you. And Gary Oldman's like, I didn't do nothing. She's like, but you did so much. And then he's like, oh, I guess I did. Like, what? You literally
like, can
just
I please
said, like,
get in that ass? That normal-sized human ass?
Ugh, Jesus. I mean...
That's the upsetting thing about this movie, is that it's trying to treat this subject matter with respect, but it doesn't, right? Like,
yeah, you can tell, like, that maybe the original story that was trying to be told...
The original cut of the movie.
Was trying to do something respectful and, like, you know, like I was kind of babbling about earlier, like trying to shed a light onto the issues, you know, that, most people will never encounter and just don't know about, you know, the issues of being a little person in, you know, society and like raising a family and dealing
because
with
as
all
should
of
come
that
as a
stuff.
shocker, you and I are not dwarfs, so we
are not. Yeah.
We cannot understand. We can empathize, but we cannot sympathize.
Sure. But, you know, having a movie like this, as you know, like there are many movies for many different, you know, cultures and ethnicities and walks of life and all of that stuff to try and explain to everybody else, like, what the fuck it's like. I'm sure that that's what this movie was trying to do. And maybe there's a version of it somewhere that, like, does a better job of that. But, like, the version that we got is the version where David Alan Grier fucks a midget porn star. And that's the funniest scene in the movie.
Yeah, and like David Alan Grier's character is like obsessed with dwarfs.
Yeah, I don't know. Oh, yes. I'm sorry. I said midget. I mean dwarf.
Well,
I know. I watched this movie, and the whole movie, they're like, don't say midget, don't say midget. And I was like, okay, all right.
Midget! Oh,
God damn it. I don't know. I don't want to offend any of the dwarf listener population of our podcast, which
if there are, please email me at Chris@CultureShocked, and I want to know what you thought about this movie, because as someone who's not a dwarf, I found this movie kind of offensive.
Yeah, I would like to know if this movie is like...
If you're a dwarf, is this actually offensive to you?
Is it semi-true to life? Did they try to do a good job, or is it just like...
Tone deaf.
Yeah, or is it coming from somebody who's just like, I want to tell this story because it'll get me into Sundance or whatever, and then everybody was like, oh, geez. That's like, I wonder if any of the little person actors that were in this movie, like, if you ask Dinklage about this movie, like, what would he even have to say about it?
Dinklage has gone on the record saying that the original cut of the movie was really good.
Oh, well, there you go.
And so here's something even crazier. So apparently we're a little slow on the uptake with this movie. It's apparently a cult thing now, and
it has like a cult following.
Drive, the director of Drive,
okay.
Nicholas Winding Refn.
Yeah,
the F is silent. Refn. Apparently, he's a huge fan of the movie.
How can you be a huge fan of this movie?
And one of the producers of the film sent him the director's cut copy.
There is a director's cut copy?
Well, hold on. He sent him a copy of the director's cut. I don't think the director's cut's ever been publicly released.
But that's what I'm saying. It exists.
It exists because he's seen it.
Oh. So is he a fan of the director's cut or the regular cut?
He was a fan of the original cut. I haven't heard anything about the director's cut, if he's a fan or not.
I would love to see the director's cut of this movie.
So would I. I kind of would.
It'll never see the light of day, but...
So here's the other thing. So Matthew Bright premiered this film in 2004 at Sundance, but...
Mind-blowing.
He was invited on stage to talk about the film after it came out, after it screened, and he was like,
he's like, nah, no thanks.
No. He went on stage and like fucking trashed the Cops producer guy that helped produce the film.
Oh yeah, he's like, this is nowhere near the movie.
Yeah, and he like trashed him, and so this is the last movie he's directed.
Oh wow, yeah, I mean,
and he claims that Gary Oldman put up the money for him to fly to Sundance to trash the movie.
Well,
but like most nobody who's in the movie talks about.
Yeah.
I guarantee you if someone was like interviewing McConaughey for like, I don't know, whatever fucking movie he's going to be in next, that like movie where he plays a character named Moondog. The hell's that movie called? Like, oh God. The Beach Bum?
Oh yeah.
If someone's like, hey, Matthew McConaughey, we want to talk a little bit about Tiptoes. He's like, no.
Yeah, he's probably like, man, nah.
I don't even want to talk about that shit. Like, what's that movie? That wasn't me.
He's like, you know what, man? That was so long ago, I don't even remember.
No, he'll just be like, that's not me. That's just not me. I don't know who that is, but that's not me.
I don't know who that man is, but that is not me.
So yeah, so isn't that it? Like this, that's the crazy thing about this movie. It's like it's just a weird time capsule.
It's just like an insane movie that got made somehow with like all these actors who were either like famous or on the cusp of being famous, like a lot of recognizable people, you know, like I wonder how early in Peter Dinklage's career this was, because then wasn't he in, oh gosh, he was in a bunch of shit after this. What is that movie that I'm thinking of? Is it 4 Weddings and a Funeral? No.
Death at a Funeral.
Death at a Funeral, that's
where
what
he
I'm
plays like the dead father's gay lover.
Yeah, and he was in both the original and the remake that they did.
The American remake, yeah.
Yeah, but like I want to know, like, you know, was that after this or before this? I don't know.
Still crazy to me that I didn't realize Peter Dinklage was American.
Yeah, he's been American the whole time.
I know. That's why I like everyone's always like, he has a terrible British accent. It's like, oh. I just always thought he was British.
He's British, but he has a shitty British accent.
Yeah, so here's the other thing. This movie came out the same year as Elf, which Peter Dinklage was in.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, like, I mean, I don't know. This
movie is really... I don't want to say it's bad, because I don't think bad is the word I would use. This is a complicated movie because...
It's complicated in its badness.
No. It's complicated in that the movie that we were intended to see will never get to see. And we know that a version of this film exists where it's probably not a tonal mess. It may not be good still, but at least it probably rectifies the situation that this film has, which is being a tonal mess. And that's the problem here, is that we're essentially essentially being told by people involved with the movie who watched it before it got torn apart, like Peter Dinklage, you know, hey, this movie was good. Like this, it was a good movie.
Yeah.
Before they like took an axe to it and like cut it up.
Yeah.
And
no longer a good movie.
Right. And so the thing is, like, I don't know if I can really say this is a bad movie. I think it's just a really bizarre film with a lot of weird choices that I think there's so much. There are so many things in this film that are like, we're close. Like, Gary Oldman is really good in this movie. Actually, Gary Oldman does a really good job outside of the fact that it's distracting every time he's on screen because he doesn't even look like Gary Oldman.
Yeah, and I was still definitely like laughing every time.
And B, like it is laughable at how bad like the makeup is. And like the way they hide the fact that Gary Oldman is a tall, like a normal sized actor.
Yeah.
Which to me, like, why don't you just cast a dwarf in that role?
I was like, why isn't Peter Dinklage the brother? Like,
right. And the thing is, you know what the crazy thing is? Dude, Gary Oldman's like a couple years older than Matthew McConaughey.
Yeah.
And like he looks it because they don't look like twin brothers.
Yeah, he's noticeably older.
Yeah. Even under all the crazy prosthetics. Like, because he has like a facial prosthetic and he also is wearing what I would like essentially describe as like a very bulky jacket.
Yeah, he's got like a weird like hunch.
Yeah, but it's like a jacket, right? It's like a very thick jacket.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's sort of meant to disguise like his regular sized arms.
Well, because like, you know, you see some of the other actors, the dwarf actors in this film, and you look at them and you look at Gary Oldman, it's like, that's just a guy.
Yeah.
In like little person, like dwarf, like prosthetics. And like, it's not good.
This movie's fucking weird, man. So weird. The weirdest goddamn movie.
Like, the thing is you know how you can fix this movie? There's a couple ways to fix this movie.
Well, you either go full comedy, which
I don't think works. I don't think that works. I think that playing people who are dwarfs and are short for laughs is offensive.
Yeah.
And
100%.
like, look, you can play it. I mean, like, look, you could have played it for laughs at some point, but 2003 is not that year. I mean, let's not forget, a movie like Blazing Saddles is predicated around the whole fact that Cleavon Little is playing a black sheriff in a racist white town. And like, you know, you couldn't make that movie today. You couldn't make a movie like Tropic Thunder where you have Robert Downey Jr. doing, you know,
he's blackface. 100%.
But it's like poking fun at people having done blackface, which if you don't get that when you watch the movie, I mean, the fuck are you? The movie's not offensive. It's poking fun at doing blackface and people thinking it's okay.
Yeah. I mean, the whole movie, like even within the universe of the movie is like, people are like, dude, what the fuck? And he's like, and he's the guy who just like doesn't see anything wrong with it. So
yeah, but this movie, like you have dwarf actors, and you decide to put Gary Oldman in what amounts to dwarf Tim Conway walking on his knees with big fake shoes.
Yeah, it's not. It was an interesting choice that I don't think is it's a strong choice. I think it's a wrong choice, though. Strong and wrong.
And again, Peter Dinklage, like, he could have played that character.
Yeah. I mean, he looks more around the same age as McConaughey than Gary Oldman does.
Yeah, he does. And again, like, that's the whole thing about this movie, is that you have an actual dwarf actor in, like, essentially would be, like, the third male lead role. And you instead have Gary Oldman as the main dwarf lead. But it's clearly a guy in terrible prosthetics. Like, maybe you should have thought that through.
No, it's clearly Gary Oldman in the role of a lifetime.
That's according to the trailer. That is like, you know what the thing about that trailer is? You know what that trailer reminds me of? The trailer reminds me of the trailer for The Room. It's like trying to talk this movie up way more. Like, don't talk it up.
Yeah, I mean, maybe. Fuck.
The Passion of Tennessee Williams. Like, that's what that reminds me of. Like, the role of a lifetime. Like, oh man, if it's not, this is really gonna backfire.
The role of a lifetime.
Yeah. Boy,
the role of a lifetime movie.
Yeah, how many lifetimes did Gary Oldman give up to be in this movie?
God, I hope not too many.
Yeah, this movie it's a really weird movie. It's one of the, and like when you tell someone about the cast, they're just like, wait, what?
Yeah, and that's the most insane part about this movie is that it's like a really cheesy, poorly cut together, like even poorly acted, in my opinion, and maybe that's because of how they cut everything together, because everything is so tonally weird from scene to scene. But like everything about this this movie is like on the for sure like Lifetime TV movie level. Like the production value, the way that it was shot, like everything about it screams TV movie.
Except for Gary Oldman.
Except for the fact that it's got all these super famous people in it. And you just go, what the fuck?
I stand by what I said. I actually think Gary Oldman is pretty good in this.
I don't know. I can't take him fucking seriously. And not even because he's playing a dwarf, but just like because it's like, this is fucking Gary Oldman. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I know. I mean, I get it, but like, it's actually like, if we're talking about the best performance in the movie, he's probably the better one.
I guess. I don't know. Nobody else is.
Like, I've never been impressed by Kate Beckinsale as an actress. Like,
I mean, I don't know.
She's okay, but like, this movie is definitely not playing to her strengths.
Yeah, because she's not murdering any vampires or werewolves in this movie. So
yeah, that's what it is. That's what I was going for. And she's not wearing spandex that's clinging to her ass. So that's clearly what I was going for. No, I don't think of her as like a dramatic actress. I think of her as like, you know, she's in fucking Adam Sandler movies and she's in Underworld. And like, it kind of shows in this movie because like the last line of the movie is, "It's okay, Rolf, you can kiss me." And I was like, oh my God, what are you doing? Like, this is so hokey and fucking cheeseball.
Yeah, it was terrible. And then the movie
ends with her hooking up with Gary Oldman while Matthew McConaughey is going off and doing God knows what.
He just like abandoned his dwarf child and his, you know, super hot wife. I like how they separated like seemingly very quickly after they got married.
She's just like, she's like, all right.
Like the baby just cries a lot and he's like, I can't take this. I can't deal with dwarfs. I was like, what? Your whole life you've been surrounded by dwarves.
I can't deal with the fact that, like my whole family are dwarves and my son is in pain all the time. He's crying like, oh, you fucking dickhead.
Yeah, it's bullshit. It's super stupid.
Would this movie have been better if it had been her and him struggling with whether or not they should have an abortion? And like the
I mean, that is a part of the movie. That's like a solid like 10 minutes of the movie.
I know,
15
but I'm talking
minutes.
about like a bigger part of it, and like that's the whole like conflict in the film is like
that's kind of what I thought it was going to be. Was
right,
like,
but that's
hey,
what I'm saying. It's like so all over the place. It's like a fast forwarded version of that.
Yeah, that's like, I thought the whole movie was going to be like, you have these two people who love each other, and then she finds out that he comes from a family of dwarves. And at first, she's weird about it because she's like, oh, okay, this is weird. Why wouldn't you tell me about this?
She comes around very quickly.
But then, like, and then she kind of shifts from like the, I don't know, the initial sort of just like bewilderment and like, wait, what of it all, to like, then she has all these medical questions because like, oh, she's pregnant immediately. And so I thought that's more of what it was going to be. Like, she is freaking out because like she doesn't necessarily want to have a child who's a dwarf, you know, for various reasons, blah, blah, blah. Their lives are, you know, going to be, you know, harder in certain aspects. The medical issues that come with, you know, certain types of dwarfism and stuff like that
which they do touch on in the movie,
but only very slightly. And right, so like you have
Peter Dinklage and Patricia Arquette at the beginning.
Yeah. And so like you have all these issues that you could have gone deeper on in the movie and you just don't. And I don't know why.
Because I think it's on a cutting room floor somewhere.
Yeah. Or yeah. I mean, I don't know. Maybe that was a bigger part of the movie. I
would have to assume it was.
Yeah. But then like, I don't know, the rest of the movie, like the movie's an hour and a half. You think there's a 2-hour version of the movie that's better? Because I don't know. I don't think there is. I don't think by adding an extra 30 minutes of the movie is going to make this movie any better. I think it'll just make it slower and even weirder.
Well, I don't know if it's an adding or subtracting as much as just, well, not adding additional time. I think it's more like replacing.
Sure. So like maybe there's less of the shit at the end of the movie and more of the stuff in the middle. I don't know.
Like, dude, there is a scene where Matthew McConaughey is in the hospital right after they have their son, and he fucking punches a hole in the wall.
Yeah, he freaks out. He's like, God damn it.
God, boom! And I'm like, oh, this is like a completely different movie all of a sudden. Like the last scene was them happy in a car after they got married. It's like there's a bunch of shit. There's a bunch of shit missing here. Like this movie is like, there's like, all right, so there's like an arm and a leg, but no torso, and there's a head, but no neck. It's like it's missing the stuff that holds it together.
Yeah, and it's also missing. Like, why is McConaughey bringing like? Remember when they go to the party where David Alan Grier has sex with that little person porn actress?
Oh, yes, Bridget Powers, who you totally knew as a porn star. I didn't, but you did.
Yeah, well, you know what? I've spent some time on the internet. Leave me alone. Anyways, during that sequence, remember he like brings the like hot, tall, blonde chick like from the academy or whatever that he's teaching?
I do.
So he's like so the night before he's talking to Kate Beckinsale on the phone and she's like, oh, I'm going to this party tomorrow that like your uncle is throwing and it's going to be like a good time. And Matthew McConaughey like gets super pissed and chucks his phone into the goddamn forest. And then this fucking other chick comes out of nowhere and she's like, nice one. And he's like, do you want to go to a party tomorrow night? And I thought that was going to be a way bigger deal. Like that they were like having an affair or something. And
what was the point of that? I don't even understand what the point was.
It's probably another thing that just ended up on the cutting room floor. Like just because I thought it was going to be a big deal. Like, oh no, he's going to have sex with this other lady or whatever. Or he's like bringing her around to like, you know,
make his wife jealous
or like, you know, fuck with the little people at the party by bringing this fucking 6'5" blonde woman or whatever. Like, who knew? But nothing happened. She just like got all excited about David Alan Grier and was like, oh, I'm gonna go get an autograph. And that was it. And that was the whole thing.
From Jerry Robin Jr.
Yeah.
Some like random, God, what the fucking, yeah. Like you were saying.
A really bad wig. Like, what the fuck?
Dear.
Yeah, there's a lot of really stupid, what the fuck, why is this even in the movie moments? Like, why do they ride motorcycles?
Oh, yeah. No, I don't. And that's the thing, like you were saying, like, there's a lot of choices in this movie that are really strong choices.
Strong and wrong.
Strong and wrong.
I don't know.
And, yeah. Again, this is one of those movies where it's like, I genuinely don't know how to feel about it. It's such a weird movie.
I don't know what to say about this movie other than the fact that, like, I don't know, man. I could have gone my entire life without seeing this movie, and I think you should. I think if you are a listener, you should go your entire life without watching this movie because
I honestly think you should watch this movie.
I don't think you need the stress in your life.
It's so weird. Like, it's one of those movies where it's like, it's not like Aquaman, where it's like, this is a bad movie. There's no point in watching it. Like, this movie is a bizarre failure.
I don't know. Like, I'd rather watch Aquaman because at least Aquaman was like big and dumb and fun. And like, this movie is just like, what the fuck?
This movie is one of those weird movies. It's one of those weird movies that, like, you could go on Matthew McConaughey's filmography on IMDb or Wikipedia and you start scrolling from the top. So you got like Dazed and Confused, and then you got Amistad, Ed TV, Reign of Fire, and then Tiptoes, and it's like, what movie is that? Because that's like the only movie that like most people probably haven't like heard of or have any baseline knowledge of. Yeah. And that's that's the thing about this movie that I think makes it an interesting failure is who Matthew McConaughey is now, who Gary Oldman is now, 2 Oscar winners at this point. And this is a movie that they were both in 2003. Like, that it's worth watching for that because you're just like, how this movie couldn't get made now for a number of reasons. One of them being they couldn't afford McConaughey and Oldman at this point.
Dude, how do you even get a cast that's like this
in this day and age? You don't.
It would be a freaking $100 million movie.
Yeah, and one of the actresses just goes, "I'll be in your movie if you let me wear this hat."
Jeez,
fuck you, movie. Like that. And then the people wanted her to take the hat off.
That's how I feel about this movie is fuck you movie.
That's the other crazy thing. They wanted her to take the hat off. And it's like, this is the only reason that
she even agreed to be in your movie at your
SAG minimum
chosen budget.
Yeah. That's nuts, right?
Yeah, I don't know. What the fuck? I don't know what to say. I have nothing else to say about this movie except for why.
We know what to say because we've already said a lot, but I don't think that there's anything else we can say at this point other than...
I mean, go see it for yourself, I guess, and like go down the rabbit hole of... why?
Yeah, it's an interesting film to watch and be like, this is just a weird failure of a film that exists in a time and era, a time and place that we're so far removed from at this point.
Yeah. This is a for sure what the fuck were they thinking movie.
Yeah.
On a lot of levels.
Oh yeah. A lot of choices being made. So what would you give this film out of 5?
Oh, I mean a 1? Maybe? I don't know. It's barely even a movie.
Yeah, it's not. It's a collection of scenes with a bare bones plot draped over it.
Yeah, this movie makes little to no sense about 90% of the time.
And that's no fault of the director. It's an editing thing. I fully believe that.
I mean, I don't know. I haven't seen the director's cut, so
I'm just going off of what Peter Dinklage said. I guess he could lie and be like, they're never going to fucking see it anyway, so he could say it was the best fucking film I've ever seen, right? To try to save face and be like, that's why I was in this movie, because the original cut was really good.
I mean, I don't know. I don't think you get all of these actors in this movie if there wasn't something special like in the script.
That's my point. Like, that's the only way you get him is by having an actually good script.
Yeah, so this movie must have had an awesome script, and then it probably just got shredded up during the production process and post and editing and all of that stuff. Like, I don't know. I guess, from what you've told me about, the producers and them dealing with the director and everything, it sounds like nobody was on the same page, from day one.
Yeah. It sure doesn't. And I'm going to give this film like a 2 because it's just a weird movie. It's
You're
just
being
weird.
Nice.
I am. I'm being generous. It was an official selection for 2004 Sundance, okay?
And that is all you need to know about this movie.
Yeah.
It premiered at Sundance.
And the director of the film got on stage and said, "This movie is a fucking travesty." Which, that's like, man.
And he never directed a movie again.
And this was his last movie. Yeah, so went out with a bang, didn't he?
If you're gonna fail, just fail hard.
Fail upward, like this movie.
Well...
Fail downward? Fail sideways?
Just fail.
Yeah, just fail. We're going to take a break and we'll play a preview for the next Culture Cast.
I want you to drop him in the ocean for the sharks.
Around here, they like to say, everybody knows everything. What if the truth was, nobody knows anything?
I got a feeling today is the day.
Today is the day. I can feel him this time. I can feel him.
Good to see you, John. Took so long to find you. What do you say?
Say I'm not called John anymore.
It's funny, huh?
Where would you want to find me?
My husband has never seen your face.
You were right about him.
He's violent with you. What's this?
Just a little scratch.
Little scratch, huh?
I want you to take him out on your boat and drop him in the ocean for the sharks.
They say she came all the way to see you?
Yes, it's about temptation. There's right and wrong.
You know how in Plymouth, everybody knows everything.
Well, I've got kind of a big day tomorrow.
I know all about your big day.
Feels like everybody knows something I don't. How do you explain that?
Dill, will you have yourself a good day now and do what's right, okay?
I need you to deliver me from temptation.
Are you going to take him out?
You're not right in your mind.
My wife says you're being a little difficult.
There's something wrong. You're gonna tell me what this is all about? Sometimes we do bad things for good reasons.
That's right. On the next Culture Cast, we're going to be talking about, we're just kind of trying to fill some space in between now and Mike White March. We know we kind of took a little bit of a break after the first of the year. I had some family matters I was attending to, so we were kind of podcastless for a while. But I'm just kind of throwing this on top of Eric right now. I'm going to gauge his response, but we're going to watch and talk about on the next podcast another bad Matthew McConaughey movie. We're going to talk about the film that I think broke Eric as a film goer. We're going to talk about Serenity.
Oh, man.
Another movie with strong choices.
Strong and wrong. Another movie where you're like, how did you get all of these people to be in this movie?
And the crazy thing is that movie was made last year and came out this year.
Well, yeah, I think it came out in December, actually.
I think it might actually be a good double feature.
Tiptoes and Serenity is like the what the fuck were you thinking McConaughey double feature?
Yeah, McConaughey what feature? McConaughey what?
All right.
Right?
I guess.
All right, sure.
All right, I guess.
So that's I think what we're gonna do on the next. Yeah.
Okay.
And you've already seen it too.
I did. I went and saw it in the theater, and boy, that movie.
Something, right?
Oh boy.
I haven't seen it yet, but it is available now for VOD watching. And so I figure we've got a little bit of time between now and Mike White March, so we might as well just take advantage of that time we've been given and watch Serenity, because we're thinking about doing Oscar movies, but the Oscars are this coming weekend, and
I don't care about any of the movies that are in the Oscars.
Me either. Like, I started watching a little bit of A Star Is Born, fast forwarded through it, realized that it is not my kind of movie, and not have no interest in watching Lady Gaga ugly cry or Bradley Cooper do his best Sam Elliott impersonation while Sam Elliott's in the fucking movie with him. So I have no, and it's like, I wouldn't want to watch a movie that's been done 4 times now. Like, get out of here.
Yeah, I don't care. I don't have any interest in watching any of those movies.
I want, and I wish someone would take the trailer for Tiptoes, take the film for Tiptoes, and edit the trailer into a horror movie. Like make it so like McConaughey is like a fucking sociopath.
Like serial killer. And just
yeah, because like that's the whole thing. Like he has a secret. And like, what's his secret? Is it that he fucking cuts women's heads off and fucks their disemboweled heads? No, it's that his family are a bunch of dwarfs. That's the scary secret, that his
kills
family
everybody who finds out.
Yeah, and his family has a genetic disorder that they can't control. Like, that's what you're so pissed about?
Yeah, and he's the one guy who just lucked out and just didn't pull the short straw.
Wow.
Oh, that was mean.
No pun intended, you fucking dickhead.
No, the pun was for sure intended. And immediately regret that joke.
But so when you're not offending people of different races, creeds, or disabilities, where can people find you, Eric?
I will also be offending people of different races, creeds, disabilities, sexes, whatever, preferences, menus.
Menu? Are you offended the Chipotle menu?
Yeah, I have offended many people with my Chipotle order. No, you can find me on Twitter at Tycho Magnetics. I rant about shit over there, and every once in a while we'll get drunk and live tweet some dumb movie that I'm watching. And that's it. That's where you can find me. Just there. Nowhere else. Don't come and find me in life. Unless you want to talk about Tiptoes. And seriously, if there is a person of small stature listening to this podcast and you have seen Tiptoes, or you would like to see Tiptoes and talk to me about it, I want to know how offensive this movie is. Because
or how not offensive it is.
It seems vaguely offensive to me, but I don't know for sure. So let me know. You can, slide into my DMs in a non-sexual way, and we can chat about it.
You can find me on Twitter at CultureStash. You can find the podcast on Twitter at CultureCast. You can find us on the internet at www.culturecast.com. That's where you'll find the episodes, our RSS feed. So go check us out there. And like I said, next episode, we're going to talk another Matthew McConaughey movie. So get excited, folks, because, I know I am.
McConaughey!